All right, so we're up to Siman Daled Halacha base. Yadayim. So we're talking about the halachas in Netilas Yadayim. Yadayim la'oris aleihen mayim shalosh pa'amim. So when we wash into this time in the morning, we should wash each hand 3 times. Lahav ruach ra sheshera aleihen, to get rid of the ruach ra which is on our hands. It says in the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkot Mches Yadayim ki chutz me'atamim haniskarim b'Sivkot Aleph. Aside from the reasons we said yesterday, i.e., the Rosh says because of you've touched parts of the body which are normally covered, and the Rashba says it's like a kohen who comes to something that should do avodah. Aside from those 2 reasons, there's another reason. Shetzorich little yadav letfila, tzorich little gam mishum ruach ra hashoyre ala yadayim. You've got to get rid of the ruach ra, which is some form of tumah. Which rest on your hands at night. For that reason alone, Chazal wouldn't be misaken a bracha. Therefore, we need those reasons as well. So, you should really wash until the wrist. And if a person hasn't got enough water, he can wash till the knuckles. Yeah, interesting. There's the famous Maisa with the Bistro Salanta. The Bistro Salanta was once a guest at somebody's house, and they invited him for the meal, and he washed only till his knuckles. Yeah, and they asked the God Lador, why didn't he wash lechatchila to the wrist? That's what you should do. So he said that he noticed that there's a young girl who works in the house. She goes down to the well to schlep up the buckets of water, and I'm not going to be frum on her cheshbon. So I'm going to wash to my wrist so that she's going to schlep more. So I'm not, but the other he washed only till his mouth. But lachatchila wants to try and wash to the wrist. But tzarich lifshet hakapos kamisha rates the kabel dovo. You should spread out your hands as if you're trying to receive something. So make sure that the water gets to every part of the hand. V'yagbiyem keneged harosh, to lift them up next to your head. V'gam tov lahadiach piv, and it's important also to wash out your mouth in the morning. V'tanis sibur lo yadiach, but on a fast day, then you don't wash it out. So just take a quick look at footnotes 20 and 21. In the first one, it says in the Dirsha notes, but Tam Hadava, why have you got to wash your mouth out? Nowadays we brush our teeth. I suppose that's equivalent to it. But Tam Hadava kosev lahalon b'shem habeis Yosef shetzorich lahaskir es Hashem hagadol b'kedusha v'tara. You need to say the Shem of Hashem b'kedusha v'tara, and therefore it's inappropriate if you've got you wake up in the morning with a sort of foul breath. Then it's not appropriate. You need to wash out your mouth. Into his mouth. It doesn't stop you from making. You don't have to. If you didn't wash your teeth or whatever, you are allowed still to make the bracha. And then he says, the Mishnah Berurah says on the Tanis Tzibur lo yadiach, you mustn't wash out your mouth on the Tanis Tzibur. So what do we do nowadays? If you look in 21. He says, even if you do that every day, it's not appropriate to do that. However, if someone is distressed, you're going to shul in the morning without having washed out your mouth, washed your teeth, you are mate. If you are mitzdayer, then you're allowed to. You should just make sure that you don't swallow whatever you're drinking. So if you use mouthwash or just wash out your mouth, then you're allowed to tanis if you're mitzdayer, as long as you're careful not to swallow it. But afilu b'tisha b'av, kasav sham sheyesh lahat makom tsar gadol. On Tisha B'av you need not just mitzdayer, but you need a higher level of tsar gadol. So most people, I think, the mainstream view would be that on other regular ta'anesim, if you're mitzvah, you're allowed to, but on Tisha B'av, I want you to try not to, unless you're mamish b'tzar gadol, and Yom Kippur yesh lahachmir gam b'zeh. So Yom Kippur certainly not, and that seems to be okay. But still, one should be careful to you just lean forward, like he says, to make sure you don't swallow it. Okay, Sivkos and Yud shalosh pa'amim. So you rinse your hands 3 times. You wash your hands 3 times. Even if you're going to pour a lot of water over your hands, that doesn't make a difference. It's got to be 3 times. What gets rid of the ruach ra is 3 pourings. 3 times. First of all, you wash one hand on your right hand, small, and then in your left hand. So right, left, right, left, right, left. You do it alternate times 3 times. Now, famously, of a sefer Maiserav Kosov, Maiserav is the Hanhogus of the Vilna Gaon. So in the Maiserav it says Arba Palmim. Why 4 times? Because Shalish Palmim lahavi rachra, 3 times to get rid of the rachra. V'haraviis lahavi mayim shenitmu, to get rid of the water which is still tomid. So therefore, the Vilna Gaon, and people do this. People would wash their hands 4 times in the morning just to get rid of the washing, which is still on their hand after the 3rd washing. Women should also be careful about this, like men. Because they also touch the food, and that's the problem. If their hands have got tum on it, they're going to touch the food. That is a problem. They shouldn't make them tome through with their hands. Children should also wash their hands when they get up in the morning, because they too touch food. When non-Jewish people touch food without washing their hands, you don't have to worry too much about that. Because they're not makabel tuma. There's a tshuva of Rabbi Yosef. Interestingly, he says, "What if you go into a cafe, kosher? You go into one of the local cafeterias, and you have a Jewish but a non-frum waiter waitress, and they serve you food. They may touch the food. They prepare the food." So Rabbi says we can rely on the fact that the general way nowadays is people get up in the morning, they wash their hands, wash their face, and you can assume that that's what they've done for health and for these purposes. Now, regarding children, how old do children have to be for you from what age do you wash the hands? So if you take a look at footnote 23, the main points are the Shulchan Aruch Rav says we're noig lehakel, for children who have not yet reached the age of chinuch. And however, he adds shamisha nizah benegir shakotan kvar miyom hamila kodesh yeomelo. If you're makbid from the time they have bris milah, i.e. from the child is 8 days old, then that's kodesh yeomelo. That's considered an act of holiness. They asked in the next paragraph, the opinion of Rabbi Yashav is sheyesh lahakbid ditol yodov shelakotan mizman shemaschel aleches. But when the child can walk, then you should try and be makbid on negel vas and Netilas time for the child. And another time he was asked, little cotton es yodov mehagil shebahu mevin mashem medaber imay. Not from when he walks, from the time when he understands a little bit, you can have a conversation with him or her. It doesn't give an age really. Yeah, it's subjective. It depends on the age of the child, and also when he walks. Kids walk at different ages. But Chaim Kanievsky says he paskan from the age when they touch their food. So that could be even younger. They're touching the food from quite a young age. Or they touch their eyes or their mouths. And then lastly, he says the Chazon Ish says same thing. Whenever they're going to start touching things, then you should be careful from that age. Okay. Halacha Gimel. Says the Mechaber. Before you wash negavas in the morning, when you wash Netilas Yadayim, you shouldn't touch your mouth, your nose, your ears, your eyes. Halacha says the Mishnah Berurah, you can cause injury to these limbs. Not just the inside of the eye, but even touching the outside on the eyelid, one should avoid doing before you wash negavasa. Daled, says the Mechaber. Even if someone washes his hands, one should not touch the rectum. Because it's medically dangerous. Says the Mishnah Berurah, now that's just generally. The Mechaber was talking generally throughout the day. But before you wash negavas in the morning, one should avoid touching that part of the body. And so too a man should not touch his aver, the mokum hanekev, in the place where there is a nekev, the whole afilu who nosu, even if it's married, so the nezik is done through the orifices, the nose, the eyes, the ears, these are all orifices, and so too in those private parts of the person. So halacha hey, lo yigab begigis sheichar, a person shouldn't touch a barrel of wine, shemishmush hayad mafsid hashecha, it's going to ruin the sheichar, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sivkot Yudalet, What if you did? What happens if by mistake you touch some food before you wash negavas in the morning? So it doesn't usher the food, doesn't make it like treif. But you just got to be very careful to try and avoid it. If you did do it, then you can rinse that food 3 times. You've got an apple, for example, and you touched it by mistake before you wash negavas in the morning, so you can rinse that apple 3 times. You can get rid of the rach tumah. You shouldn't have a cigarette, I guess, before you wash negavasa. If you take a look at footnote 25. What about you've got an apple? Does peeling the apple help? So he says in 25, even if you're going to peel the apple, you should still rinse it 3 times. Okay. Okay, let's carry it.
Applied if you've got a 4-year-old who in the morning you'll have to tough the box of Cheerios and probably didn't wash his hands first. Does that
right? So first of all, if it's a young child, if it's not higiyah lechinuch and whatever there are make it, but it doesn't usher the food. So from tomorrow we try and avoid it. Yeah, but it's hard. But it's also good training to get the kid into the pattern, the habit of washing negavas as soon as he gets up in the morning. Yeah. Okay, halacha vav. Ein tzorich revius netilas yadayim letefillah. When it comes to washing your hands for tefillah, you don't need the revius of water. Says the Mishnah Berurah, whether you're in a place where you haven't got water, whatever it is, and it's not ma'akev, you should try and make sure there is a revius. Okay, halacha zayin. We'll finish with this. You should try and be careful with all the rules of halach of Netilas Yadayim for a suda, which we'll Hashem do. We should try and be stringent also with Netilas Yadayim for shachris. The halachas of using a kli, and koach gavra means if there's just a water which is just a tap was on, you've got to actually put the tap on. You've got to pour the water. We should be makbid for that. And all other things which puzzle for suda. It says in Mishnah Berurah, "Eina ma'akev, ratzulema." The eved didn't have bracha. If but the eved you didn't have all these things, you didn't have enough water, or didn't have yuchel levarich Netilas Yadayim, even a little bit of water, you can still wash and you can still make the bracha of Netilas Yadayim. If there's no alternative, but you should try and be makbid as much as one can. Even if you haven't got a kli and you just pour some water over your hands, then but the ever that will get rid of the rachra. You haven't got a proper kli. You're allowed to use a kli which has got a hole in it. Which is some sort of tap, I guess. He says shavas mayim. Even though it might not have koach gavra, where you're doing the actual pouring. If you just rub your hands in water, you'll need to pour over the water a little bit. Okay, we'll leave it there.